In this session, let's understand the concept of syncing and sourcing. It is very important to understand the syncing and sourcing concepts in PLC wiring to make the right decision on I/O connection. Syncing and sourcing terminologies applies only to DC input and output circuits, not for AC, because of the polarity. If we see the definition of syncing and sourcing, it says syncing means common ground line and a sourcing means common VCC line or a power line. Before understanding the syncing and sourcing, let's see the simple DC circuit. In this DC circuit, the power will flow in one direction. Here, I consider the lamp I directly connected to the power source. In this scenario, the power will start flowing from the positive leg through the load to negative leg of the power source. And the switch can be either placed in front of the load or behind the load. If the switch is connected behind the load, then this circuit is called as syncing switch circuit. Here, the lamp or a load will be always connected to the positive power source and a switch will be connected to the negative power source or a ground line. Whenever you are turning on the switch, the power will start flowing through the load and to the switch. This will call it as a syncing. When the switch is connected between the positive line and the load, then this circuit will call it as a sourcing switch circuit. Here, the load always will be connected to the negative power source or a ground line and the switch will be connected to the positive power source. Whenever the switch is turned on, the power will start flowing through the switch to lamp or a load. This will call it as a sourcing. Let's see the sourcing and syncing connection in PLC. When it comes to the PLC I/O wirings, these two concepts, sync and source, is a fundamental parameter for digital I/Os, and it can be connected either in syncing or sourcing. Let's see the syncing and sourcing input side. If we see the syncing input, here the switch is connected to the positive line and negative line of the power supply is connected to the common of the PLC. Here the PLC will be the load. Whenever the switch is turned on, the power will start flowing through the switch to the load to the negative and the power direction will be towards the common terminal. But when it comes to the sourcing input connection, the switch terminal will be connected to the negative power supply and a positive power source will be connected to the common terminal. Here, the PLC will be the load. Whenever the switch is turned on, the power will start flowing through the common terminal to the PLC and then to the switch. Let's see the output side. In output side, in the syncing connection, you can see the load will be connected to the positive power source and the negative will be connected to the common terminal. And here the PLC will be the switch. When the PLC will give the power line or a positive signal to the output side, the load will be connected and the power will start flowing towards the common terminal. But in the sourcing output, load will be connected to the negative terminal and the positive of the power supply will be connected to the common terminal. And here the PLC will be the switch. Whenever the PLC is giving the signal at output pin, then the power will start flowing through the common terminal to the load. In a sensor, there are two types, PNP type sensor and NPN type sensor. PNP type sensor means the power will flow from the emitter to collector, and in NPN type sensor the power will flow from collector to emitter. Let's see how to choose sinking and sourcing for this two type of sensor. First, let's see PNP sensor. PNP sensor is also known as sourcing sensor because they are source positive to the output. This is the basic architecture of the PNP sensor. First terminal is the emitter, collector, and this is a base terminal. Let's see the circuit diagram. We have a three terminal. This is the base, emitter, and collector. And the arrow mark indicates the power flow between the terminals. Always this emitter terminal will be connected to the positive of the power supply, and the base terminal will be connected to the negative of the power supply, and the load will be connected at collector side. When the transistor or when the sensor gets activated, the power will start flowing from the emitter to collector. Next, let's see the wiring with the PLC. So this is the emitter terminal, collector, and a base. Base terminal and a PLC common terminal will be connected to the negative, and the emitter terminal will be connected to the positive of the power supply, and the collector will be connected to the input pin. Here, PLC will act like a load. When the sensor gets activated, it will give the power to the or a signal to the PLC. The power will start flowing to the emitter to collector. Next, let's see NPN sensor. NPN sensor is known as sinking sensor because they have a sink ground to the output. This is the basic architecture or a block diagram for a NPN sensor. First terminal is the base terminal, collector terminal, and this one is the emitter terminal. Let's see the circuit diagram for the NPN type sensor. So it have a three terminal, base, emitter, and collector. Always this emitter terminal will be connected to the negative power supply, and the base terminal will be connected to the positive power supply, and the load will be connected to the collector side, and another terminal of the load will be connected to the positive of the power supply. And this arrow mark indicates the power flow in the sensor. When the sensor gets activated, the power will start flowing towards the emitter. The power will flow towards the collector to emitter. Let's see the wiring with the PLC. So here the first terminal is a base, collector, and this one is emitter. Emitter will be always connected to the negative power supply, and the base terminal and the common terminal will be connected to the positive of the power supply, and collector will be connected to the input of the PLC. Here the PLC will act like a load. When the sensor gets activated, when the signal gets energized to the NPN sensor, then the current will start flowing towards the common terminal from the collector. The I/O connection in the PLC can be either sinking or sourcing. So you can do the sinking or a sourcing connection to the I/O, or sourcing or sinking connection to the I/O, but never make a combination of sourcing and sourcing connection or sinking and sinking connection.